for last night's video not having any sound. So this is kind of my part 2 of Marvel Crisis Protocol painting, and then I will jump back into some Warhammer stuff. So if you're tuning in for this and want to see the Warhammer stuff, that's going to happen later. And we're just going to keep going and plugging along on our green goblin model that we started. And oh, my camera, of course, is focusing in the wrong place, so you guys can see where we got at. Let me get to my close-up cam so you can guys get a better look. There we go. So you can see where we got to in the model. We're going to play around now with the glider. I'm going to kind of freeform it, I think, for this. So I'm not going to look at the reference. I know I was doing that last night, but I'm gonna try to go for a freeform. And then, like I said, for you folks that maybe came for the Warhammer stuff, we're definitely going to get to that in a tiny bit. And as always, when we're doing these videos, if you guys are listening, I know last night you guys probably couldn't have heard me at all, so that's probably why I don't blame you guys for not shouting the alarm, shouting the word, because my guess is probably nobody actually could hear anything I was saying. So you know, I don't blame you guys for not being able to tell me that. But if for any reason the audio sounds weird or whatever, and you can hear any bit of me saying that, always let me know via chat, so I know to change that stuff up. And I hope you guys are enjoying the video. I'm having so much fun painting him. It is a lot of fun. He is a cool model. And I can assure you guys I have some really cool stuff coming down the pike, coming down the way. And we're gonna have a lot of fun, and I am every inch closer to doing a live event. So stay tuned, and Marvel Crisis Protocol will definitely probably be one of the first live events that I do. So we can actually start seeing some gameplay with this stuff. My goal is to get at least a Blood Bowl event or a Marvel Crisis Protocol event happening. So that you guys can get into these games, because I keep talking about how cool they are and how awesome they are, but I am not putting my money where my mouth is. Like I said, I'm sort of free-forming the glider. I have an idea of what I want to do, and I'm just totally free-forming it. So what you guys are going to see me do a lot of here is a lot of just blocking out a color basing, essentially. And I said it last night. My goal was to sort of two-tone the glider, because we do have some controls and stuff down there. So I'm gonna do some detail underneath. But I wanted to two-tone the glider so that, like, the top part is one color, and then we're going to have a secondary color in the back. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do some, like, metal bits on there as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, we're going to paint all of this with that Space Wolf's gray, which is the gray I'm using. And again, I'm using Citadel contrast paints for this project, which is, I say for this project, but they really have become my go-to paints. I use them. I really have fallen in love with the contrast paint line. I love how the paints look, and now that I've done a little bit more painting with them and have sort of learned how the medium works, I really like it. Again, everything on my end seems okay. Let me just do this real quick. So I think Maybe I'll hear myself and I'll know. All right, I think we're in good business. All right, cool. So you guys should be hearing everything I have. You should be hearing my my epic soundtrack as I paint, and you should be hearing my comments as well. So my suspicion on what was wrong last night was correct, so I did fix it, which is good, very good. And of course, whatever we're doing painting on the channel, I tell you guys all the time, please, 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 don't hesitate to, you know, if you have questions about other painting projects that you're working on, or if you want, and I'm trying to give you guys the best angle, if you guys even want to just talk about Marvel in general, because we are painting Marvel based characters. So if you got some Marvel facts you want to drop, or cool, maybe your favorite comic book moment, and of course we're doing Green Goblin, so if you want to do a Spider-Man comic book moment, that would be fine too. I want everybody to feel like they can go, nuts and let loose and talk about a bunch of stuff. The only thing I always ask is that we don't do any spoilers on here. So like if you're gonna talk about anything that's maybe more like a current movie or current series for Marvel, let's try to be spoiler free. I make it a point with my Marvel stuff to watch it pretty fast, because I know the world of the interwebs, and I'm curious. I don't know if you guys have the same problem, but I know where I work, if I were not to watch, I have to say, everywhere I work, at all the places I do work, everybody's mad respectful, and they don't let the cat out of the bag when it's like that kind of stuff. But it only takes one person, and not necessarily a person who thinks that they're doing something wrong, or like even they could do it by accident, but it only takes one person to say one thing, and then all of a sudden a big part of what you were watching just got spoiled. So it doesn't take much. But like I said, I definitely do not. I'm going to say that where I work, folks are pretty respectful. That all of the folks may not have watched that, and that they in fact may be spoiling something for somebody else. So. Alright, sorry guys, I do that sometimes. I get like super duper quiet. I don't know why I do that. Especially if like I'm painting like a little detail or something. I get like super quiet. I'm just trying to see where I might have missed an opportunity to paint something. Wow. And you can notice what I've done is I've put a little bit more water on this, which is both good and bad. Basically, I want to put red in those like dots down there. but you could see just how awesome he's looking with that glider painted in. I'm really really psyched about how he's coming out as a figure. Like, he is super looking good. And quite honestly, there is not too much. Like, I might have to do a little bit of touch-ups here and there. Not much. There's not much this time around, I will say. For this video too, just because there was so little left to really do on Green Goblin, you may see some random models pop into this video. So like I said, I wanted to do a two-tone color approach to the glider. And this is just going to be like a baseline coat, because I may do some other stuff in the glider. Because if you look at the comic books, the original Green Goblin glider is very basic. It is very much like a solid monochromed color. It is not very flashy. It's not until later that, you know, obviously artists embellished it a little bit more and gave it a little bit of a more techno look. Because in the original ideology and thought process with the comic was that, he went insane and started dressing up as a goblin. So there was a lot of, Norman wanted to frighten the masses with his you guys could see how nice that two-tone. So you can see how it's a very subtle different gray, but it just gives a little bit more of a flash and dynamic to the glider. So now the glider has a little bit more character just because of that two-tone paint job. And it's very simple, very elegant. Oh. Okay. That's why the handles are so nice, because if you do what I just did, so now what I'm doing is just adding that same color to these. Now, some of these details on the bottom, I may or may not go back and do them silver. I'm going to think about that. And probably when you guys see the next Marvel Crisis Protocol paint video, I'll probably just have them done. But you can see I want to make the idea is I want to make the inside of those buttons red, so it's a little bit more interesting. And I did it again. Oh my god. So for the sponsor of this video, I want you guys to please, if you could, check out the link for Undiscovered Realms. They are they are my sponsors for this video. It's a place that I get all of my gaming and tabletop supplies at. They are good guys. They're awesome. They're located in the Northeast if you're around that area. If not, they do have a website. They ship anywhere online. So if you're looking for whether it's tabletop gaming stuff, whether it's painting supplies, whether it's collectible card games, they do Magic the Gathering, they do Dragon Ball Super, they do Pokemon cards, they do vintage toys, they do Funko Pops. If any of that is your jam, check them out. They are my sponsor. They hook me up with all my models, and they will be the place. I will be doing official, hopefully an official Marvel Crisis Protocol event, which I am looking super, super psyched for. I have terrain and other stuff going into that, so please, please, please check it out. Familiarize yourself with them. And like I said, while that is drying, I'm going to bring in, so this is actually a commission piece that I'm doing, And I wanted person wanted it to look like King Kong, so I am gonna diligently finish him really quick. I was gonna look at reference for this, but I think I'm gonna just wing it. I'm gonna try out a color. And see if this will work out. It might be too dark, which means I might have to go in and lighten it a little bit, but I don't think it will be. I think it's going to be just right for the coloring that I want. Yeah, so the person that I'm doing this commission for, it's pretty cool. They specifically wanted the gorilla model to look like King Kong. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to just lighten it a little bit. That's okay. I can do that. I wanted to see how much this was going to sort of prime the color. It's not terrible. I just think the color is not the color. When you see it with the brown, it's not exactly what I was looking for. So I think I'm going to have to work with this a little bit more. Yeah, this was always going to be a tough model because the majority of his, so the way that his fur is, and if you look at the actual like stills from the film, because I tried to base it off of the newer King Kong, his fur is a little bit more flesh color toned because it's like dirtier. So I'm gonna have to play with this a little bit. So what it means is probably just means that I'll have to do, like I said, just some just mix in some white and play around with like doing some highlights in certain areas so I can get some better darks and some better lights. I think for the majority of it, it's pretty good. It's not terrible. I gotta work with that as it dries. That's all. It's achieving the color separation that I wanted, but I gotta make it a little bit better. It's not bad. It's just got to get a little bit better, and I can do that as it dries. But it's doing what I wanted, which is, oh geez, man. This model wants to fall. Oh, jeez. Oh, that's funny. If only that was really his color. Right, I'm going to move that model out of the way. I have a lot of haphazard model stuff. This is why it probably is not a good idea to paint like 2 or 3 models at the same time. Unless you have a more sufficient painting deck to do that, which I will be. I am in the process of removing my setup here, or getting more. I have to get more things. Yeah, so I have to see how this is going to work. All right, so I think we're going to stop there because see, this is where it's a little tough because these are, so for folks that don't know, these are WizKid models. So these are D&D WizKid models. So they're molded, and they're like pre-primed, pre-painted. The only issue is that some of the molding on them is a little questionable. So you don't always get a nice clean mold because they're solid molded models. So they're not assembled models. So what I've noticed with these models is that, they can sometimes miss out on certain key things. And the mold gets a little, what's the word? It gets like a little, definitely less detail, which is one big part of it. But also it just, it gets like a little bit of quality issues. They don't put that full detail in. So like what you guys are noticing me doing now is I'm trying to figure out like where does this foot end and begin, and all this stuff. So what I'm kind of doing is I'm sort of editing the foot. So I'm like, okay, well, if the foot's going to go here and it's going to go into this area. So I'm sort of just like refiguring out, all right, cool, toes are going to be here. And then, because this is where it gets a little weird, is that he has a back foot on one foot, but like on the other foot, he doesn't really have the back foot. And they didn't really, so yeah, this is going to extend all the way around. They didn't really mold the hair the right way so that it like seamlessly goes there. So I'm constantly fighting the model a little bit to be like, all right, cool, because like this looks like hair. So I think I'm gonna have to come back in there with the hair to get that done. So there might just be a little bit of editing I got to do in there. And sometimes, like in the other foot, it's so smooth that you can kind of just make up what you want. As long as it looks believable when it's painted, I mean, you kind of win. But obviously the impact of the model is that if there is like not if the seams or the lines are confusing to the viewer when they look at the model, then it's going to look like it was badly painted. So you kind of want to just look at your model and just try to figure it out the best of your ability. So I'll have to go in there probably with that fur. But as you can see, it did a fairly nice job of giving him the flesh tones that I want. And now we could just do some edge highlights to bring out the knuckles and just give a little bit more of a tone onto something. Yeah, it was dark. I shouldn't have done that. So I'm just mixing up a little bit of a lighter tone. And then what I can do with that is, so actually, do I want to use this brush? I guess I could. Alright, so what I'm noticing with this is we got to put a little bit more white in it. So it gets a little bit lighter. There we go. Now we're seeing a little bit. There we go. We could put a little bit of this other flesh tone in here. So you guys can see now he's so we're painting in this nice bit of light. So you guys can see now he's got some lighter tones in there. And again, I'll have to come back in, and this is what I meant by I have to play with the hair, because I think the hair is still a little bit off. Yeah, now the problem is that The other tone on him is a little bit, it's still a little wet. So I think what it's doing is it's additively like mixing, and I should have done this with a smaller brush. I'm doing this with too big of a brush, so it is getting a little messy. But I'm using like one bristle on that brush. Actually, let me switch to my smaller brush just to pull up some of this. So again, it's just bringing a little bit. And now you can see it just brings a whole nother dimension in life to that foot. But like I said before, the detail on this is so small. And this is where the quality of the model comes into play. Like it's so small that so it is definitely bringing a little bit more focus to it. But yeah, see how like very like lackluster the detail is on that. So I'm not going to go too crazy. Now I'm going to come in with a little bit of this, because this is what's going to sell the rest of it. Just making sure that we have because going back to what I was saying before, that contrast is going to be all, and no pun intended, because we are using the contrast paints, that dark to light is going to make the huge difference in this model. So that being on point is so important, because that's what and so now I'm just going in and I'm like redefining that hairline. Because although I introduced that color, I do want to make sure that there is still a dark presence and a dark color in there. And that's because that's going to sell those highlights better when the viewer who's looking at the model is seeing that strong contrast. like I said, I got to work with a little bit more of the hair. What do you guys think? I think that looks pretty damn good. I really like how he came out. Now, the only other thing on my docket with him that's very, very important is those eyes. Because when I did them, so I wanted to make that eye a lot darker. I'm going to do the same thing with the other eye. So I'm just going to go in for another pass. So I want them to be a little bit darker. And then once they dry, I'm going to put in just a little white dot to give them a little bit more light, which is going to be amazing. So, wait, that's not what I'm doing. So now those eyes are a lot more specific. And then what I'll do is I'll get that, once they dry, I'll get that in there. And then I'm going to do a little bit more with the Gilliman, but he is going to be extremely done. And I really like how he came out. A lot of fun. I got to get pictures of these guys for my website. Very cool commission. I'm very happy that that the person asked me to do that. I thought it was so cool. I thought it was such a cool way to do it. And I was like super ecstatic about the project. I thought it was so cool. All right, so I could just do it now. Where's my Gilliman? Let's wrap him up, and then we're gonna switch gears, and I'll get into the Warhammer stuff. So I'll take a slight respite. I'm not even gonna take like more than like a 5-minute, 10-minute break, and then go into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in and suggest maybe a little bit of overgrown hair. Just going to suggest a little bit of a fade. Doing everything with a big brush today. So I'm just going back in. This is more to make what I painted make a little bit more sense. It's also to bring a little bit more contrast to the line of that paint. So now when you look at it, it has a little bit more definition. Because again, like I was saying before, they just happened, the way that they did the bottom of that model, it's very it's very non-descriptive. So there's like a lot of stuff in there that they didn't really like give you a good frame of mind, like, is this hair, is this not hair? So I'm sort of going to just go with my own script here on what that hair might or may not look like, so that I can just make a model that looks cohesive and looks like it makes sense and it's not wrong. Because like I told you guys all the time, and I do this with my own models, which is part of why I can be at times a slower painter. Let's get this a little bit more. I treat every model as if I'm doing a high-end paint on it, especially on my own models. Obviously, if you wanted to hire me, for instance, for services, you can totally do that, and we would talk about like the detail and what you want. Because obviously, if you say I want a lower end because you want to maybe save yourself a couple of bucks and you want something decently painted, but you don't necessarily want like crazy detail, because it's maybe more of an infantry unit or more of not a main unit of the game. Then I would totally just do a more basic paint job. But if you want more of that type of stuff, then we'd obviously talk about it. But going back to the reason I made that point was because for me as a commission painter, my stuff, anything that's going to be in my personal collection or is going to be part of, let's say, a demo or something like that, I'm going to want to do a much better job on. So when it comes to my models, I've said it on this channel before, I look at my models as a calling card. So when you look at that model, or when I'm playing against you, let's say in a store or a tournament or somewhere like that, I want to make sure that sorry guys, I'm just trying to do like a little bit. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going like, because when you have fur on an animal and there's like they have bends in their muscles or stuff, usually the fur is a little bit more, it's going to get darker in places. So I'm just doing that to emphasize like his muscles and to emphasize different anatomy of him. So that's what I'm up to now, and this is classic me. The minute I like say, oh, we're just gonna spend like a couple of minutes on this model, then I find something like this, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta now I gotta really like put some effort into the model, and I have to do stuff. There's also the other thing too, which I'm not gonna fill in, like, so I am deliberately leaving some of the model white, so that it makes it look like kind of he has patches of fur rather than it's all like perfect. Because I want it to look like a little bit more barbaric and dirty and stuff. What you could do too for something like this is you could start doing a wash. And I started doing that where you had like dirty patches of skin. So kind of like a Sasquatch treatment on them. To go along with some of the battle damage and some of the other stuff. So all I'm doing now is I'm just getting a little bit more of a gradient to his fur. And I'm trying to bring out some of these dark pockets I have. I'm just trying to fade it. And again, just going into areas that I know have a little bit more musculature to them, so that I can create a little bit of pockets of like fur. And this technique of having like layered fur like that, it creates motion, so it looks like he's moving, because that's something I really love to do with my models, is make the paints look like they're alive, so they're not just stagnant models on your gaming table. I'm a huge fan of doing that. So I'm just kind of doing that. I need to get a turntable so you guys can see better what I'm doing. All right. I'm thinking, with the exception of doing maybe... No, that's good. So again, I'm just emphasizing a little bit in the crack area of his like armpit, so that it looks a little bit more natural. So I'm trying to get, which technically a model like this, you could use it in Marvel Crisis Protocol too, because you can make scenario play and stuff, but you probably couldn't really, I mean, you could use this, you could use anything in Warhammer, but because you could proxy this as something if you really wanted to. All right, so we're gonna call it quits on that, but I think that little bit of jump, so with the exception of just doing a little bit more effect to the eye, so you guys can see right now. Actually, let's just do that now. I don't want to keep prolonging this model. I want to get it done so he can join the Godzilla that I did. All right, let's see what we got. There we go, baby. That looks sick. Oh, that looks awesome. That looks so King Kong. All right, so I think I achieved the goal. I achieved the commission. Person wanted them to look like King Kong and Godzilla, just so you guys could see the other one. I don't know if I finished and showed you guys the other one, but this is the Godzilla. This is the T-Rex that I did inspired as Godzilla, which I think the coloring was right on the money with this one. So of course, that's them as a pair. I think they came out real good. I'm going to tilt them up just so you guys can see. But yeah, so they wanted a King Kong and a Godzilla for the two models as a commission. I think these came out excellent. So we're going to put those to the side. And then we got further along on Green Goblin. Probably I'm going to work on him off camera. So we can... So I can... actually, I'm just going to do one little detail. Let's see if this detail works really well. And again, I'm free forming the Green Goblin one. because I want to do some cool stuff to it. So I might, like I said, show you guys this after I do some of the finer little details on it. A lot of it's going to be just metal work, because we got a lot of the bigger things done on it now. And if you guys want, you're more than welcome to check out the first part of the paints on the Green Goblin model. I apologize. Yeah, there we go. That's cool. I apologize that the video, the first part, has no... the audio was not working. No. That was my fault. I didn't know that at the time. So, by all means, if you can't hear me or you hear this all bellowed up or whatever, let me know so I could fix it. But yeah, so that's where we got on the Green Goblin model tonight. I think it's looking pretty awesome. Like I said, just a little bit of touch-ups. Gonna go into that purple a little bit more. Gonna go into a few other things a little bit more. But I think he looks pretty damn fly. So I'm gonna just do a little bit more highlights and pull out some of the metal, metal details on there too. So you'll probably see that done on the next Marvel stream. I'm gonna take a pequeño break, and then we're gonna jump into some Warhammer stuff. Thank you guys as always for watching. If you like what you saw and like the models that we painted up for tonight, for this segment, please consider following the channel. I also want to say that, again, a big thank you to Undiscovered Realms, my sponsor for this video. You can check out a link to them below. It's where I get all my gaming stuff. It's where I get my WizKid models, like for D&D, Marvel Crisis Protocol, even my Warhammer stuff. So please check them out, so you can support them. Supporting them is an amazing thing. There's also links to my website, my Patreon, and there's a tip/donation button. Please check that out, so that I can continue to bring you guys these videos and things about town. So I'm going to take a small break, and I'm coming right back for some Warhammer stuff. Take care, everybody.